All right, today we're going to try and tackle one of the most wonderfully bizarre projects I have ever come across. It's called Satoshi's Bride. And look, on the surface, it seems like this quirky little romance. But trust me, that is just the rabbit hole. What's underneath is a story that just completely defies any easy explanation.
So the story kicks off with a character whose job title is a digital thanatologist. Yeah, you heard that right. She is a professional mourner for AIs that have been shut down. Her job is literally to write code, elegies in Python, to serve as a eulogy for machines. I mean, as a setup, it's just so wonderfully strange you can't help but be pulled in immediately.
So, our AI mourner, Valentina Rossi, who, by the way, also works as a professional cuddler and a pet hypnotist, is just kind of swiping through a dating app. And that's when she accidentally matches with this guy, John Smith. His profile is, well, it's a masterpiece of nothingness, with a bio that reads like a quote from a computer science textbook.
Their first date is an absolute masterclass in social awkwardness. I mean, she asks him a fun, normal question. What's your zombie apocalypse plan? And he just launches into this whole lecture about how it's a perfect model for a 51% attack on a distributed network. His idea of flirting? An explainer on ancient Spartan cryptography. You know, it's less of a date and more like a series of failed data transmissions.
The whole date just seems like a complete disaster, right? But then, in the middle of this rant about the 2008 financial crisis, his super strict operational security just slips, just for a second. He casually says something about putting that Times headline in the Genesis block. And for Valentina, everything just clicks into place. The paranoia, the obsession with trust, the weirdly British slag. And she just whispers one name. Satoshi?
And this right here is the exact moment where the story you think you're reading just completely falls apart. Right when you think you've got a handle on the plot, the whole narrative starts to shift and change under your feet. And from a reviewer's perspective, this is where things get really fascinating.
So you start digging around, and you find that this isn't one clean, simple story. Not at all. In some versions, our hero is Valentina. In others, her name is Anna, or even Anastasia Miles. The project itself is described as a narrative synthesis, then a podcast, and then a meta-narrative with this formal title, The Indelible Mark. It's like it's designed to keep you off balance.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. What exactly is this thing? Is it a book, a podcast, some kind of elaborate performance art? The answer, it turns out, is the key to the whole project. And the answer, as it turns out, isn't in the fiction at all. To really get what Satoshi's Bride is about, you have to understand the real-life trauma of the person who made it. And this is where the whole thing takes a really sudden, really profound turn.
So I want you to meet Alberto Daniel Hill. He's a cybersecurity expert, an ethical hacker from Uruguay, and he is the mind behind this entire narrative maze. His personal story isn't just background, it's the decryption key for the whole thing. See, Hill was a white-hat hacker. He practiced what's called responsible disclosure. He found these huge security flaws in a medical provider's system, and he did the right thing. He reported them. But instead of getting a thank you, the system turned on him. For doing his job, for being an ethical hacker, he was arrested and thrown in prison for almost 9 months. And the reason? Get this. A judge was reportedly so afraid of his technical skills that they thought he could somehow alter evidence remotely from inside his jail cell. It's a textbook case of fear punishing expertise. The consequences were absolutely devastating. While he was wrongfully imprisoned, he lost access to everything. All of his assets, including around 26 Bitcoin and 1,000 Ethereum. Just an unbelievable financial loss, on top of the obvious personal cost. And this right here is the heart of the entire project. Satoshi's Bride isn't just some clever story about Bitcoin's mysterious creator. It's an incredibly elaborate structure, a piece of art that was built for a very specific purpose, to process its creator's real-world trauma. The work is actually described as a narrative protocol. Think of it like a story that's been engineered to be a psychological tool. It's this incredible collision between the cold, logical world of technology and the messy, chaotic, often unjust reality of human experience. And once you know that, the parallels are just impossible to ignore. In the story, there's this cult with a plan called the Great Inconvenience. Well, that's a direct mirror of the profound, visceral human inconvenience of being locked away unjustly. The character of Satoshi, who's basically a hostage of his own creation, becomes this powerful metaphor for Hill himself, a guy trapped by a legal system that was terrified of what he knew.
And then, just when you think things can't get any more meta, they do. The original manuscript for this story, it was lost, gone. So Hill had to reconstruct the entire thing from memory, piece by piece, through this long, winding conversation with an AI. The very act of telling the story became part of the story itself. He actually called this whole process a form of narrative archaeology. It's incredible. He had to perform a kind of proof of work on his own memories, and he used the AI to launch what he called a side-channel attack on his own mind, trying to get past the firewalls that trauma and time had built up.
So, after all that, how do we even begin to review a project like this? What's the final verdict on a piece of art that is so deeply, fundamentally tangled up with the artist's own life?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is that you can't judge this like a normal novel. It's just not. This is performance art. It's an act of narrative archaeology. All the confusing parts, the different names, the lost manuscript, that's not a flaw. That's the whole point. The story of how it was told is the art.
And at its very core, this is the project's central argument. Whether you're talking about the fictional romance in the story or the author's real-life healing process, the message is exactly the same. Real connection, real healing. It doesn't come from building these perfect, sterile, orderly systems. It comes from having the courage to embrace the messy, chaotic, inconvenient parts of being human.
Ultimately, Satoshi's Bride isn't really a story meant to just be consumed. It's a tool that was built, and it leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. If a story can literally be engineered into a protocol for healing, what other kinds of incredible tools can we build from the raw, messy material of our own experiences?